how did Cuba become the choice of destination?
I'd been all over Mexico. I spoke some Spanish. Um, I knew I used to say mi español es peligroso. That means my Spanish is dangerous. But I asked a couple of people that had been around the world, where was the best place, the closest best place to go get the ultimate experience with this, and they told me Cuba. So
Wow.
I went, and I'm gonna tell you, probably one of the happiest moments of my life, happened in Cuba. The last day we were there, Pastor Miguel, the guy whom we built the church for, rebuilt the church for. He and I were walking out to the bus to go back to the airport, and he said, "Dan, just thank you so in Spanish. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. I just could not be more thankful." And I said, I reached in my pocket and I pulled out a Swatch watch that we found a client that gave us like 1,000 Swatch watches, but this was a really nice, this was the high end of the Swatch watch, world. And I handed it to Miguel and said, "For you, my brother." And he got tears in his eyes, like, and then he said in Spanish, "I never thought I could ever afford a watch. I never thought that I would have." He said, "I always have to rely on the sun for knowing when to do things." And he says, "I'm just thankful for this." And then I said, "Is there anything else I can do for you, Miguel?" He said, "Yeah, we need to raise some money to rebuild that children's building out, behind the church." And so I said, "Well, how much money are we talking about?" And he talked to the interpreter, and they talked back and forth and got a piece of paper out. And he came back to me a couple of minutes later and he said, $237. And I went, "Are you talking about, $2,037? No, $237. Third floor, palapa roof, all of that, about, 500, 600 square feet." And I looked, and I said, "Just a minute." And I walked around the corner and I looked at my wallet, and I had $238 in my pocket. So I felt like this was a sign, from the man who
Yeah.
and I just said, "Okay, I'm going to give it to him." And I knew that I needed about $15 to get out of the country. I was going to have to borrow it from somebody, but I figured that we could do it. And so I gave him $237. I went back. I mean, he was unbelievably touched, crying. I mean, just really touched. I went back to that building 2 or 3 years later, a shorter trip, about 5 days, and it was, my name was on the building. This is a school, a children's school, donated in the name of Dan White, Dallas, Texas. And I could not believe that, one, that I was so touched by $237, but it wasn't the money. It was the reality of the fact that we are so blessed and we just don't know it.